So, assuming we're all in the right place, this is American History 101 until 1877 is what it says on the, or at least on the book. And I'm not sure what it says in the on the syllabus, but we'll get as far as we get. I'll get more into that in a little bit. Do I have anything else before we start? I'll think of it later. Where's the? No, where's my? Did I put it in my backpack or did somebody else take it? I hope I didn't steal the clicker yesterday. Yeah, I think somebody else got it. That's fine. I don't need it. All right, so I am Professor Holt, Mr. Holt, Riley. I don't care what you call me. I'm here. Let's see. So, since you're going to be dealing with me 2 days a week, except for weeks like this where we have Mondays off, because that happens more often than you expect, you got to deal with me. So, as much as you're going to have to deal with the material, you also have to put up with me. So, here's what you're walking into. I have a terrible sense of humor, which you may have already guessed. I can be sarcastic. My colorful language tends to be reserved for some of these idiots throughout history. I'm going to be unkind to some of these individuals because they deserve it. This isn't a warning that I'm going to cuss you out at any point. I don't roll like that. But I will call, Christopher Columbus a genocidal asshole, that sort of thing. So, and that has been like a problem in the past. Not ever here. That there was an older lady in one of my classes back at my old tech school, and she was like, "Oh, I don't like the language." And it wasn't like I was showing a video. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I'm bringing it up now. I'll make terrible references, which you'll see throughout this presentation. If you don't get it, don't worry about it. It's not going to be on the test. Also, I have a hard time sleeping at night sometimes, especially lately. I don't know, I've got a cat that is just full energy at night now, and he is, how big is he now, 14, 15 pounds? He's too much cat to be running around at night. And he's one of 3 of that size. But as far as what you need to worry about for the class, I will meet you halfway, as long as you come to class and, stay awake and take some amount of notes, you'll be fine. This isn't going to be a class where I'm going to try to trick you and fail you for not paying attention to a real specific thing. But again, if you don't show up and you don't do your work, I can't give you a good grade because you won't have earned it. So that's where we are. And I'll get more into that a little bit more in this awful little presentation that I made. So let's talk about history, since that's what we're here for. You've got your dates, names, battles, treaties. That's great, but that's boring, right? I mean, who cares? Now, granted, those are also really easy for me to use for multiple choice questions, so there will be some. I can't help that. You do need to know some important individuals, but it's going to mostly be people you already know since this is American history. As far as dates, you're going to have maybe 1 or 2 per test. And those I will be like, hey, this looks like an important date, you guys. Maybe we should know it. So yeah, it's not going to be anything that you're not going to expect. So the way I was taught history, and the reason that I'm up here, because it struck a chord with me, is that history is a series of questions. Your who, what, where, when, why, and how. So, to explain that, we're going to use the War of 1812, which is probably going to be about where we're going to end up for the semester. We're supposed to end with the Civil War, but with the way timing works, often I don't get quite that far. So we'll talk about the War of 1812, which is a war we don't talk much about in American history because it lasted like a year and a half. But it's interesting, and well, since people don't talk about it as much, there's stuff a lot of people don't know. So, who was involved in the War of 1812? America and Britain. Great. We're off to a good start. What happened? They had a war. Easy so far. Where was it? Mostly in the U.S. It was also up in Canada a bit. I'll mention when we get to it towards the end of the semester. There was like naval battles on the Great Lakes because, since Britain had control of Canada and we were down here, the Great Lakes were like this huge body of water that there was just straight up naval battles on the Great Lakes. It's weird to think about. But then again, if you've ever seen the Great Lakes, you might as well be looking at the ocean. They're massive, so sure. When did it happen? 1812. Also easy. Technically ended in 1814, but don't worry about that. So the why and how is really the main question. Why did the war start? How did it start? What was going on that made these two countries that had just gone to war, 30, 40 years prior, go to war again? Britain was impounding American ships. There was the whole sovereignty of the seas thing, which also had to do with France a little bit. Actually, I probably could have mentioned in here also the French Revolution was, the French Revolution was just kind of winding down at this point, or Napoleon was just kind of winding down at this point. But like there was a lot of pressure between America, England, and also France. Border issues, because also at this point, Britain owned a lot of land that is currently the United States, and America was claiming that land, and that was causing issues. Imperialism, which we'll talk more about next semester, but that's a whole thing of like expansion and taking land and whatnot. So there's a lot of reasons. It's not like, oh, well, this one thing happened and therefore they went to war. That's never how it happens. I'll go to World War I real quick, even though, again, that's next semester. The inciting incident, everyone's like, oh, well, the guy in Austria the Austrian guy got assassinated, the Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Yeah, but there was like 2 decades of stuff leading up to that made it so that when this guy got killed, it was enough for everybody to dogpile and cause a world war. So it's never just a single question here. This is where you get your essay questions from, is because there's multiple answers, and every one of them's right, as long as you give enough reason as to why you gave that answer. So, anyway, more on that, as we actually get into the material. This is this is a term that we use more in my Western Civ course. So this isn't something you guys need to, by the way, you don't need to take any notes today at all. This is just, like I said, the intro day. Let me make sure that I've actually got my recording going this time. Okay, good. So the historical lens is basically this idea, and here we have a big block of text, and just to put that simply, how we view history depends on what's going on in the modern day. Because no matter how much we try to be objective about, oh, this stuff happened in the past, and it's, a thing, it's events happened, and that's it, right? But like, when you look back at the past, you're going to be colored by what you've been through in your life, what you've been through in the world stage. So, for example, during the Cold War, a lot of historians would look back at, say, Britain and America, or France, for example, because, again, we had issues with France, and say that, like, Britain or France were these big empires like how Russia was in the Cold War, and they eventually fell, and we were okay, so we're going to be okay again. It's totally fine, guys. Don't worry about the nukes. And like today, where social equality is more at the forefront of people's minds, you go back in history and say, okay, well, most of the time when you read about history, it's like George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and all these guys in power. But what about everybody else? because the people in power typically were rich white men, and that's not everybody. Especially considering women couldn't even vote until like 1919, so like politically they had no voice, but they're still living in the world, obviously. So you can go back and say, okay, well, were women actually better off under the colonies, or were they better off under Britain? How much did things change? And we will look into that. Not so much Britain versus America once they get their independence, but like each state kind of does its own thing, and there's a wide variety. It's pretty interesting. Now, all that said, neither way of looking at this is wrong. And of course, this doesn't change what happened in history, but why it happened, or at least the part we focus on, is different based on our own personal bias. Because, again, we're human. We have our own biases. That's just how it works. Okay. So, history. And again, it's the backbone of our society, etc. That joke is rapidly aging. But like, you don't come to history class without thinking, why do we care? Because, I mean, this is 101. You guys are here because it's a required class. I get it. And the War of 1812 seems pretty unimportant. I mean, America and Britain had like a 1.5-year war. Not a lot actually got done. And then at the end, they didn't really agree on a whole lot. So who cares? And the argument is, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it, but, like, we're not exactly at war with Britain at the moment. Who knows? But Britain's not really a world player anymore, and America's certainly not imperialistic, which, if you don't know what that word means, we're certainly not going around, like, taking over countries and taking their resources. That's not something America does. But it is our legacy, and the past does shape the present and the future, whether we learn it or not. So it's better to kind of know what's been going on, because literally everything that's happening today, and I don't mean anything, I just literally everything that's happening today is a result of stuff that's happened in the past. And if you can draw these lines, you can get a better understanding as to why these things are happening, why it's come to, in some cases, as bad as things are, and maybe how it can be fixed, although humans being what they are, who knows? And history exists in patterns, which we'll see more of as we go along. And if you see these patterns of the past, you can kind of see where things are going. And again, that's kind of a curse of being a historian, is when you see patterns happening on the world stage, it's like, hey, this has happened multiple times in the last, like, 150, 200 years. And it never goes well, but whatever, it'll be fine this time. So, American imperialism, I just kind of moved on to essentially 102 for this because I taught 102 first. But, we know about the World Wars and the Cold War, great. But, like, since this is American history, and it's so much shorter than my Western Civ course, where we start at literally, like, the Stone Age, there's a lot of political stuff here. I mean, because we're creating a new nation, and the Founding Fathers were really, really catty at each other. So much of that is just the personalities clashing. And, like, that can be interesting if you're into political history, which, whatever. But, like, why not focus on the more exciting parts? Because there are certain parts of history that are exciting. I mean, again, I find the whole naval battles on the Great Lakes kind of interesting. But because it would be incomplete, there would be no context as to why these things are happening. And the analogy I use is Lord of the Rings, but just the battle scenes. And having seen Lord of the Rings now, Especially if you use the extended edition, that's like a movie and a half worth of material anyway. Um, but you still don't have any context. Like, why are they fighting? Who's fighting? What's at stake if one side loses? Um, and I ended it here with the walking trees, even though, of course, that's just the one battle. Now that I've seen the films, I will include, and again, if you've seen the films, you'll get it. Why are the elf and dwarf aggressively flirting with each other? Because, boy, that was a thing. So yeah. But the point of that is, you can't just look at a small part of history, even though that's literally the first, we're going to commit that sin right away in this class. Because it's going to be like, anyways, the 1500s now, and it's like, okay, let's just skip like 4,000 years of human history, but I guess we sort of have to. But you start with, exploration coming out of Europe, the colonization, fighting between the European powers that spilled over into North America, which was a lot. Multiple revolutions, not just the American Revolution, because there was a lot of nations that pulled away from their imperial powers over here, particularly in Latin and South America. Because Spain sucked. I got no better way to say it. Spain was an especially bad imperial power. And then, of course, as we became a new nation, it was like there's 2 chapters of just us growing into a semblance of a stable nation, pushing west, growing internally, and this eventually resulting in, of course, the Civil War, which still has scars that can be seen today, which, of course, lead into 102, but that's for next semester. Or actually, my next class, because I'm teaching 102 this semester, which is weird for me. All right. So, since everything goes in patterns, can we predict the future with history? Not really. But it can still inform us as to not make the same mistakes that have been made in the past. This an old historian joke, a land war in Russia, never goes well, to the point that, what game was it that I had that was a loading screen? Hearts of Iron, maybe? I don't know, but there was a loading screen that was like, hey, try a land war in Russia. It's like, how about not? I know how that goes. But yeah, the past sets the foundation for what we have today, and what we do today sets the foundation for the future. That's just how human history works. And if you want to really back out and look at the big picture, history can often be traced by its wars, and war never really changes. And, there you go. If you get it, great. If you don't worry about it. Anywho, so for you guys, come to class. Obviously, for my online people that I'm recording for a day late, that's not how it don't work for you guys, but we'll get to that in a minute. Everything that's going to be on the test is going to be covered up here on the PowerPoint. So you come to class, you look at the PowerPoints, you take some amount of notes, you'll be fine. The attendance policy for in-person is 4 consecutive days, which is essentially 2 weeks straight of you not being here, at which point I assume you're not in my class anymore. Obviously, if you have some kind of medical emergency or your car exploded or something, just email me and let me know, and we'll be fine. Just keep me up to date if something happens. I know some students have like vacations already planned, and it might interfere with school days. Fine, whatever. Just let me know in advance, and it's cool. No big deal. All right. Now the way that I make the PowerPoints is I have gone through the book. I grabbed the stuff that looked important for each section and made the slides. So if you get the book, which this is a first edition because I'm pedantic and I wanted to have a first edition, this is what yours is going to look like if you get one physically. That said, I'm not going to require you to have the book because A, they're expensive, and B, apparently they can be a nightmare to get for some reason. If you can get like a digital copy of the book, fine. If you can do like I did with my Western Civ book and get it for super cheap off like thriftbooks.com, great. If not, it's fine. I will like reference stuff in the book sometimes, but I'm not going to be like, you guys have to have your book in class every day or I'll take points off your final grade. I don't. A, that's extra paperwork. B, nah, it's if you don't get the book, you don't get the book. It's whatever. It will help, but you can also be fine without it. All right. There may be some instances where material in the notes won't come out of the book, and I will mention that. I'll be like, hey, this is something that I'm going to include on the test that's not in the book, but I'm going to be telling you about it. In fact, let's see, this class, I don't know how many, because I know in 102 there's a couple of videos that I showed there specifically on the test. I might show some, I'm not sure how many, I don't remember how many videos I showed for this class. Oh, there is definitely one, yeah. So yeah, there'll occasionally be little videos and stuff. And for you online guys, since I can't just record a video and put it on YouTube that's already on YouTube, I'll just post the link on your Blackboard. Don't worry about that. Do the work. If you don't do the exams or the papers, you're not going to get a good grade. I say I can't grade something you don't complete. I can grade it, but you're not going to like the grade you get. And I'll get more into that in a little bit. And if you have any questions, let me know. And actually, I'll just go ahead and pop over here. Yeah, that's my email, riley.holt@fmarion.edu, not g.fmarion.edu. I've had students do that before because apparently that's what yours are set up like. Yeah, I'm not student anymore. I'm now staff. So if you need to email me, especially, again, for my online students, because that's going to be the main way you contact me, let me know. If you need to here in class, talk to me before class, after class. If you have a question in the middle of class, that's cool. Just ask. Don't be shy. I'm not so new to teaching anymore, but things are always work in progress. So there's always going to be some amount of stuff, some stuff that's going to slip through the cracks. We'll figure it out. If you have any questions, if there's anything that's unclear, just let me know. Excuse me. And one final thing for the slide before I move on to the syllabus. No. And this, again, would be an old joke that has long since lost its meaning when I made this in 2012. But this show is still going. This weird little man is still on the History Channel talking about how everything's aliens. So, all right, I guess. Anyway, I'm going to pull up the syllabus real quick. Where are we? 101? Is that it? Oh, that's Tri-County Tech. Oh, that's the Tuesday, Thursday. Okay, I need to go to... Right. Okay, and let me fix the time here because usually it's an 8:30 class, but we're not in an 8:30 class. 11:15, I think, is when we're supposed to end. All right. All 26. All right. And, oh, wait, I do need to fix that before. Too much. Duplicate. All right. Then that's going to be weird. Okay. Great. Syllabus. All right. So this I'll have up on your Blackboard within the day. I'll try to put it up after you guys leave and before the next class gets here. So this is your basic syllabus. Again, there's my email. Just kind of goes over the course description, which you've already done. There is the book again. It says it says required text. I'm not going to be super strict on that because I put everything up on the PowerPoints. I've had professors that like half the material is going to come from the PowerPoints, the other half's going to come from the book. So you better read. It's like I'd confuse myself. Like I'd be going through grading. It's like I don't remember this question. Where did that come from? So yeah, it's all going to be what we're going to cover in class. I'm not really going to do a participation grade. That's, again, just more freaking paperwork for me. Okay, so, right. Oh, I got ahead of myself again. I didn't write this syllabus originally. I got it from one of my professors, and as you can tell from all the bold, he's a bit intense. So some of these that are like, this is a thing you have to do, probably not quite as strict. I'm not going to be quite as strict about that. So, the papers. There's a midterm and a final. So the midterm will be before the fall break. I need to actually look on the calendar and see when that is. It's sometime in October, so you've got time. 2 to 3 pages. I'll go over that actually when we get to the end of the syllabus. And then the final paper is due at the end of the semester. So just 2 throughout the entire semester. This isn't an English class. I'm going to make you hand me a paper like every 2 weeks. That's ridiculous. Also, that would kill me. So for papers, those of you that are here in person, because again, there's a lot of folks listening to me online right now. If you can print it out and physically bring it in, that would be great. Now, I no longer have a working printer at my house, so I get it. On the other side of the building, yeah, there's that big glass room. That's our media center, as they call it. You can print stuff out there. So if you need to print stuff out, you can do it in there. If you're not able to, fine, email it to me. Now, that said, I need you, and this is especially for my online students, because I'm going to have so many papers in my inbox come paper time. When you send me a paper online, I need you to attach it to the email as either a Word document or a PDF document. I think I've had students do like a Google Doc before that worked, but don't just like share the file via Google Drive or whatever, because Francis Marion's email hates that. They think you're trying to like hack the system or whatever. It hates it. Also, if you send me a link that I click and then it tells me to request from you permission to do the thing that you sent me, to look at the thing you sent me the link for, by the time you send that to me, I'm going to be 5 papers down. And then I'm going to have to go back and find it. And that's, just send me something that I can open right away. That's all I ask. So if you can't bring it in person, which again is what I prefer, so for my online students, you don't get that option, make it so that I can open it directly from the email. That's all I ask. Attach it, and you'll be fine. Obviously, no handwritten papers. I've had that happen once in the 10 years I've been teaching. So I'm not super strict on like 10 points per day that it's late. As long as just get the paper to me around the time that it's due, please. Obviously, if you wait till the end of the semester and hand me both papers at the same time, that first one's not going to be really worth it anymore. But, just get a paper to me at some point. As far as spelling and grammar, they count to an extent. I'm not going to go through and like mark every one every small misspelling and every comma mistake. It's like, oh, this is a point off here. But if I can't tell what I'm reading, then I'm going to deduct points. I need to be able to tell what I'm looking at. That's rarely been an issue, but it has been an issue where like I don't know what I'm reading. So just make it Just give me a well-written paper, and that's automatically gonna get you a lot of points. And then it's like MLA format. I'll get more into the details on that in a little bit. As far as the test, so every 3 chapters we're going to have a test. So, for here, let's see. I want to grab the names of the chapters. We've got, there's so much prelude. Mapping global frontiers, colonization and conflicts, and global changes reshape colonial America. And then we're going to stop and have a test. As we finish each chapter, I'll put the PowerPoint up on Blackboard, so you'll be able to look it over and have it to review. As we get towards about the middle of the 3rd chapter, since that'll be the last one for the test, I'll go ahead and put that up, as well as the study guide, so you can narrow down what you're looking at. The final will be identical in terms of structure. It will not be cumulative, so it'll just be whatever we have after the most recent test. So usually it's 3 tests and the final, depending on timing. Sometimes there's 2 tests in the final. The final is just another test. 50 questions, mostly multiple choice, some short answer, and the short answer are not me asking you to give me an essay. It's like the example I gave yesterday was, what river did Washington famously cross to attack the Hessians in Delaware in whatever year that was, 1777, I think. It's the Delaware. He crossed the Delaware, that famous painting. That's all you have to answer. And I don't know what high schools are doing to you guys, where I've had students write out the entire question again and then give the answer. You don't have to do that here. Just, it's the Delaware River. That's all you got to do. So yeah. And again, the final, identical in terms of number of questions and how the questions are laid out. Also, I mentioned this yesterday. All of my tests will have extra credit on them. At the end of the question, at the end of the test, there will be a number of short answer questions. And usually it ends up being about 10 points of extra credit total. Obviously, if you answer wrong on those, I'm not going to take points off. I've heard that professors take points off if you get extra credit wrong. That's insane. So yeah, that's potentially about a grade, letter grade buffer in case, you miss some other stuff. So, what else? Behave in class. Yeah, okay, cool. You guys have been good so far. Oh, right, plagiarism. That one's important. So, particularly for your papers, because that's when you're going to be doing your writing, ideas, organization, words of another writer without giving credit. Basically, if you take a bunch of information from a source and use it in your paper and don't cite that source, that's plagiarism. Now, technically, if you use information from a source and you cite the source, but you cite it incorrectly, that's also technically plagiarism, but I'm not going that far. It's fine. As long as you put forth an effort. Now, the worst cases I've had 3 separate students give me the exact same paper, word for word. Not think I was going to notice. I've had a student copy and paste an article off the internet as their paper for it was the Gold Rush, I think. And just the first paragraph, this isn't the way a student writes. So I just copy that first paragraph and put it in Google. It's like, oh, you mean this entire article? And it was word for word that article. They just copied and pasted. That's plagiarism. You're using something that's clearly not yours. I think I mentioned it down here again, but something that's also plagiarism that's new to the game, AI. If you use ChatGPT to write your paper, that's plagiarism. That's also you not writing your paper, so I don't even need to invoke plagiarism for that. But we're going to use plagiarism because that is the worst possible thing you can do. If you get caught for plagiarism, That's a 0. There is no, we'll take this amount of points off or let you try again. That's a 0 for that paper. I also have to bring it to the provost's office. I also have to bring it to your guidance counselor. I have to bring it to a lot of people that I probably don't want to talk to. There is a chance you may get kicked out of the class. There is a chance that you will be kicked out of the continuum. And if you've done this multiple times in the past, there's a chance, because people don't play with plagiarism, you'll be blacklisted from colleges, period. Plagiarism's bad. I get that, like, oh, you got a lot of other stuff to do, so let's just quickly churn out this thing and, copy and paste and just not worry about it. I'd rather you just not hand me a paper than do plagiarism, because it's real bad. So if you have issues with your papers and stuff, just bring it to me and we'll figure it out. Don't. It's so much work for me too. It stresses me out because I don't want to do this. Let's see. Oh, there's this line here. There are no assignments in this class that call for you to use anything outside class materials. That implies that you just use the book. I don't want you to do that. The book's kind of dull. Let's be honest. It does have some good information in it, but if you're writing a paper, I would like for you to research outside sources. I would like for you to go online, or if you really want to feel like blowing some dust off of books, go into a library and just find some information, write down where you got it from, and use that information in your paper. And that's how you're going to do the thing. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. No, why are you like this? It's not as bad as yesterday, though. It was like every 10 minutes. Okay. If you have a disability that qualifies you for academic accommodations, talk to the Office of Counseling and Testing, and we will set you up. If you need to be not in here on test day, we've got a testing center where you can be all by yourself, really quiet, away from everything else, if that's better for you. That said, since there's 6 of us in here, and most people get done with their tests in like 20 minutes, and I will give you the entire class period to do the test. Most students with academic accommodations typically are able to just do it in here and get it done and be okay. But FYI, that's always an option. I don't have an office, so if you need to talk to me, just talk to me. Again, email is right there. So this is the addendum. This is just some extra information that I actually wrote. Right, 4 exams, which everything is weighed the same. All the tests, both the papers, they all are the exact same weight in terms of your final grade. So it's not like the final exam is half your grade, because that's dumb. I don't know why people do that. We talked about the exams already. Mostly short answer, multiple choice. I'm not doing essay. I've done that once. We're not doing that anymore. We're not doing quizzes. That's a terrible idea. Yeah, this isn't mine. Never mind. This is also that professor's. So here's the thing. Since all the grades are identical in weight, they're all essentially 1/6 of your grade, I will drop the lowest one. Either one test or one paper. So what that means is if you do the first paper and you're doing good on your tests so far in the year, and you want to just skip the second paper, you can. You'd be like, I don't feel like doing the second paper. I'm like, cool. I will give you a 0, big air quotes here for my folks online, and just throw it out. And then there will be five grades that I'll pull from. If you do both the papers and all the tests, and doing all the papers, all the tests, and you've got an A average, I'll let you exempt the exam, the final. And that one I'll drop, and I'll just, whatever your average is for the semester at that point, that'll be it. Which only if it's above a 90, because I don't want to be like, oh, well, you can just skip it and you've got like a 75. It's like, come on, you can pull it up. But that also means, like, if you say were to just bomb one of your tests, I can drop that as long as you do everything else in the semester. So, all that said, also for you online folks, in Blackboard, there's like where I put the grades, and there's a little section that automatically kind of calculates your average. That's not going to account for that lowest being dropped. So if you want to calculate it yourself, just do a regular average, but without that lowest grade, and then you can see what your grade looks like without the lowest. But Blackboard's going to do its own thing, so what are you going to do? Okay. Yeah, like I said, final exam is not comprehensive, but I am now fixing that this semester. If you have an A overall, then you can skip it. Oh, so this is, whoa. This is a lot of words to say very, very little. Basically, at the end of the semester, we have very specific days where everybody comes for their exams. For the most part, you will only have one exam per day, one class per day. Now, if you are going to be gone with your family or something on a day when you would have my exam, but you'll be here for one of the other days, you can just come in here when one of my other classes is having their test, because I don't have a ton of students. I mean, even my largest class is only about half of the seats, so there's room for you guys to come in here if you need to. We'll talk more about that towards the end of the semester. This is really unimportant for the moment. Okay, so again, as we mentioned, the papers and essays, there'll be 2 essays. I am going to base it on the book still, which is to say on the material. But again, I encourage you to use outside sources, because that means you did a little bit of research. Again, don't do plagiarism. What do we have here? Course and exam. Oh, so, oh right, this is what I mentioned earlier. If you're going to email me, make it so that I can open the document immediately. And just send it here. So for the test, for you guys in here, you're just going to come in, I'm going to physically hand you the test, and you'll take it and be done. Like I said, it takes most students like 15, 20 minutes. If you're not able to come in for test day, email me to let me know when you think you'll be back. Like, because if you're sick and you're out for like a week, I get it. Just like give me an idea of when you think you'll be back. I can leave your test in the front office with Tammy, and she will guide you to the testing center, which is right next door, and you can make up your test there. And it can be any day of the week. It doesn't have to be a day specifically when you have me. Some students like to just take their test in here, even when I'm teaching class, rather than be in the testing center. So, I mean, you can do that too if you want. But yeah, so for you in-person people, if you miss the exam day, let me know, and we'll get you guys sorted out. For my online students, I will be putting the test up on Blackboard with the Respondus lockdown thing, and it's kind of a pain in the butt because Blackboard is a pain in the butt on the best of days. And so I give you a week to get it done. Don't wait until the night before it's due to try to get it done and then complain to me that Blackboard's not working, because that's when everybody's trying to do it. So try to get it done earlier in the week, and if you have problems, we'll figure it out. But I give you a week. Try to get it done. It doesn't take long, I swear. All right. Yeah, so again, if you're here in person, if you can get the paper printed out and handed to me, that'd be great. If not, I understand there is just a chance that there's going to be some issues with the email because technology's dumb. Okay, then that's mostly it. Again, most of these are my professor's stuff. So real quick before we depart, because I'm letting you guys out early today. Okay, it's not gonna be due October 1st. I've got to look at. I mean, unless I don't know. I'll look at fall break. So the first paper topic is comparing and contrasting the way the European powers interacted with the Native Americans. And that's going to be about the first chapter and a half of our material. So you don't need to start like working on it right away. You can look at what we talk about and then add a little bit of your own research. That said, before we do that, MLA citation would be nice. It's the most simple kind of citation where at the end of the sentence that you use information for, or at the end of the paragraph you use information for, just put in parentheses like the name of the author, and if you have a page number, the page number, if not, whatever. And I know sometimes internet articles don't have the author apparent. Just give me the title of the article. That works too. And then at the end, have like a works cited page where you just list where you got your stuff from. That's all I need for cite. That's enough citation for me to prove to me you tried. Now that said, if you want to do a topic that's besides the default topic, you're more than welcome to. Because I have found that if a student is writing on something that they find interesting, the paper is going to be better, and I'm going to have a better time reading it. Because they enjoyed writing it. Because like if you don't care about the Europeans and their early exploration, that's fine. I get that. There's a lot of other stuff you can write about. To keep it prior to the American Revolution, because that's about where the second one's gonna be about. Yeah, which is not going to be due until like the end of the semester. But if you are going to do a topic that's not the default, let me know so I can make sure that you're not going to be doing something that's too broad. That's usually the problem students have. Like, oh, I want to talk about, well, for the second one, it's like, oh, I want to talk about George Washington. It's like, that's really broad. you gotta narrow that down. But there's a lot you can do that might be more interesting, and which is why I suggest just not thinking about the paper right now and letting us do a couple of chapters so you can kind of get an idea of the material we're going through and see what interests you. I think that's it. I will put this up on Blackboard later as well. Any questions from you guys? All set? All right. Well, I will see y'all, I guess today's Wednesday, next week. As for you online folks, I'll see y'all tomorrow because I meant to record this yesterday. So we'll do that more tomorrow. All right.